What happened inside that House Judiciary Committee room on December 19, 2025, was not a shouting match, not a partisan spectacle, and not a viral stunt. It was something far more damaging for the credibility of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It was a slow, methodical unraveling of authority, carried out not with theatrics, but with documents, silence, and timing. By the time the gavel fell, one fact had become impossible to deny. The Epstein investigation was not closed, not transparent, and not honest with the American people. The hearing had already stretched past 3 hours. FBI Director Kash Patel had grown comfortable deflecting questions with familiar phrases: ongoing investigations, classification concerns, victim privacy, national security implications. These were the same answers he had delivered dozens of times before, and they had worked. Until Congressman Thomas Massie took the microphone. Massie did not raise his voice, he did not accuse, he did not editorialize, he simply shifted the topic. "Director Patel," he said, "I'd like to move to the Jeffrey Epstein investigation." Patel smiled faintly, the expression of a man confident he had already survived the worst. He responded with a prepared line about comprehensive reviews and responsible handling of sensitive material. That was when Massie opened a thick manila folder and changed the trajectory of the hearing. He referenced a directive issued by Attorney General Pam Bondi earlier that year, instructing the FBI to review approximately 100,000 Epstein-related documents. Patel attempted to avoid confirming the number directly, but Massie pressed him with a yes or no question. Patel eventually conceded that the review had occurred. That acknowledgement alone was significant. 100,000 documents, years of evidence, thousands of interviews, records, communications, travel logs, financial transactions. Massie paused, then asked the question that triggered the collapse. How many of those documents had been released to the public? Patel hesitated. He said he did not have an exact figure. Massie answered for him: 0. Not a single document released. No redactions, no summaries, no disclosures. 0. The room shifted. Cameras zoomed in. Patel adjusted his posture. Massie then presented a whistleblower document showing internal FBI instructions to identify and suppress politically sensitive material. Patel objected to the word suppress, calling it a mischaracterization, but he could not deny the document existed. The congressman followed with a second bombshell, an unsigned FBI memorandum issued in July 2025 declaring that no incriminating client list related to Epstein existed. Massie pointed out the absence of a signature. In federal law enforcement, unsigned memoranda do not absolve responsibility, they obscure it. Who authorized it? Patel avoided the question, citing institutional processes rather than personal accountability. That deflection did not last long. Massie produced a third document, this one showing that during the Epstein review, the FBI conducted targeted searches for documents mentioning specific political figures, current and former presidents, members of Congress, foreign leaders, and then elevated those documents to TSCI classification, the highest level of secrecy available. Massie asked a direct question. Did the FBI search for politically sensitive names and then classify those documents beyond public or congressional access? Patel did not answer, and that silence, those 47 seconds, became the defining moment of the hearing. In Washington, silence is rarely accidental. Patel stared forward, his jaw tightened, his hands gripped the table. The seconds ticked by. No clarification, no denial, no explanation. When he finally spoke, it was too late. His response rejected the characterization, but did not dispute the facts. Massie then escalated. He revealed an internal report sent that very morning by the FBI's Chief Information Security Officer, Sarah Chen. The document confirmed that powerful names had been identified in the Epstein files and, by Patel's own directive, elevated to top-level classification, effectively blocking access. Massie read the report aloud for the cameras. The language was precise. The implications were devastating. Patel attempted to invoke national security. Massie shut it down. This was not about intelligence sources or foreign adversaries. This was about political insulation. Then came the document Patel could not escape, a classification change form dated March 18, 2025, bearing his signature. The instruction was explicit. Epstein-related references to political figures were to be elevated to TSCI. The signature matched Patel's handwriting. At that point, the room understood what was unfolding. This was not negligence, it was policy. Finally, Massie introduced testimony from a retired FBI agent who had worked on the Epstein case. The agent described a meeting in which Patel allegedly stated that the Epstein files contained presidents, senators, and billionaire donors, and that those names would never be released for reasons of political stability. The agent resigned the same day. Massie asked Patel if the agent was lying. Patel said nothing. When pressed again, he stood, visibly shaken, and claimed the statements were taken out of context, but context no longer mattered. 5 documents, 5 sources, all aligned. The chairman adjourned the session. Within hours, the clip of Patel's silence went viral. Millions watched the moment again and again. Media outlets framed it the same way. Not what Patel said, but what he could not say. Within days, additional whistleblowers came forward. The Department of Justice Inspector General announced a preliminary inquiry. Calls for an independent commission intensified. This was no longer about Epstein alone. It was about institutional integrity, about whether the FBI, the nation's most powerful law enforcement agency, had crossed the line from investigation to protection. The implications reach far beyond one hearing. If documents were classified not to protect national security, but to protect reputations, then classification itself becomes a political weapon. If Congress cannot access evidence, oversight collapses. If silence replaces accountability, trust erodes. What made this moment historic was not drama, but precision. A single question, 47 seconds, and an answer that never came. Sometimes the most damning evidence is not a confession, but the absence of one. This story is not over. Investigations are underway. Documents remain sealed. But one thing is clear. The Epstein case did not end with a jail cell. It followed the evidence straight into the heart of power, and for the first time, someone forced that power to go silent on live television.